Hi, welcome to Accelerated Engineering. This is the tutorial on the switch function and a related bit of humor at the end. If you were looking for a tutorial on a different function, let me know in the comments so that I can get started making that. So I've advertised the switch function previously as a great replacement to complicated if statements. And if you'll recall my tutorial on the if function, which if you haven't seen, you should definitely check out, we concluded by taking a list of numbers and assigning them a grade using an if function, or specifically a nested if function. It's an if function with an if function inside of it with an if function inside of it, and we got 4 different outputs. And that's one way to do it. The switch function is an easy way to use, well, to take that and use it without all of the nesting options. So we're going to achieve the same effect of a grade for each of these marks without using any if statements. And the way that we're going to do that is using a switch function. The first part of the switch function requires an expression on which it makes the decision of what to do. For our case, we're going to take whatever the mark is and round it down to the nearest 10. And this is how we do that with the round function. And that'll work. And that's the first step of the switch function. Next, we're going to decide to assign values. We're going to say that, you know what, if you get a 90, then, actually we don't need quotation marks. If you get a 90, then your mark is an A. So that'll take anything between 90 and 100 and assign it an A. If we take anything between 80 and 90, it's going to get a B. Anything between 70 and 80 will receive a C. Anything between 60 and 70 is going to get a D. And you know what, we'll say that, I guess then anything below 60 is going to receive a failing mark. But what we can do with that, rather than assigning a mark or a numerical marker, is we can just set the default condition. The last of these is going to be the default condition, and we'll just say that that's going to be a fail in this example. I can close the parentheses, hit enter, and then go and troubleshoot the formula as always. Oh yeah, because I didn't catch the shift key on my, there we go. Hit enter, and it tells me that the first one gets a B. And if I click and drag this down to catch all of the marks, then we'll see that it gives the same result. Well, it gives a slightly different result. We used a different grading scheme for this. But it assigns the values A, B, C, and D and fail to all of the appropriate marks. Now, isn't that easier to use than trying to keep track of nested if functions? Now let's say that we wanted to do it a little bit more sophisticated. We could take this exact same switch function, copy it over here, and say, well, instead of having it be every 10 points, we want to have a differentiation every 5 points and include pluses and minuses. In order to get that result, I'm going to take the input mark and multiply it by 2, and then take the round down and divide it by 2. And what that does is it makes sure effectively that everything is rounded down to the nearest 5. And we're going to change this a little bit. So 95 is going to get an A plus, 90 is still going to get an A, and 85 is going to get an A minus. Just like that. And you'll see I haven't broken this up into different lines because I wanted to keep it as kind of clustered and sensible as possible. So I'm putting all of these on the same line, again separated by commas, and make sure that there's a comma at the end there. We're going to do the same thing for B's, and now because we're encompassing I think 15 points per letter grade, this is going to be just well, there'll be just more options. We're going to say that 80 now gets a B plus, 75 gets a B, 70 gets a B minus, and so on. What comes after that? 60. I'll say 60, anything above a 65 gets a C plus. 60 is going to get a C. 55 gets a C minus. And then we'll say anything above 50 gets a D, and anything below that, we're still going to have the default state be fail. And that seems like a pretty reasonable arrangement. Make sure that there are commas after every value pair. Comma, and there we go. And this gives a slightly more refined function. Again, now can you imagine doing that with nested ifs? We would require what? 3, 6, 9, 10, 11, well 10, you could do it with 10. 10 nested if functions in order to achieve the same effect. And that is why switch is superior to the if function, and why you should start using switch as soon as possible. This concludes the tutorial. If you're still here, you must endure the joke, because that's the rules. So I'm going to post a 30-second YouTube short about the switch function instead of the if function. This will be my elevator switch, if you will. Haha! And if that humor doesn't scare you off, consider subscribing for more content like this.